Welcome to this episode of YouTube, reminding you to spring ahead on Sunday morning. It is that time of the year when we gain daylight at the end of the day, so that means this wolf exhibit on camera here in Central Time will be light until about 7:30 or so. Wolves also, they don't have a relative sense of time, but I think they pick up on some of this springtime weather as things start to melt and start to drip. Gets them a little excited again, so we're seeing a little bit of dominance, and that's Aiden dominating Denali there with Bolts in the forefront. Nothing too serious. Aiden does a ride up and kind of rolls Denali over and does a little bit of a squash. Denali clearly tail not tucked. This is not a negative situation. This is just like I said, a ritualized dominance, and Aiden goes into a little grooming behavior, and Denali receives it and certainly has no issues with it. Hops right up and starts to interact with his brother. Those two are true litter mates, so they are genetically of the same litter, and so that kind of thing is happening. And as we work towards spring, get a little bit more daylight, a little bit more sun, we're going to see obviously some of this snow start to go, and that's when the exhibit goes into a little transition. So as we said, the snow is still coming a little bit. We had some snow last week, but certainly Minnesota's not done with snow. It's only March 6th, but we will see these warm spells followed by maybe another dusting of snow. We have had up to say 30 inches of snow in April and late March and into April. As a matter of fact, March typically was our snowiest month in the historical records of weather, but as you can see, we haven't had a lot of snow, not compared to last year where they had a 12-foot mound to climb on. But climb they do, and they like to interact, and they certainly like to get involved with a lot of the wrestling behavior and a lot of the chasing behavior. So you see them, again, using the den as an escape mechanism, and there's Denali getting a little bit more assertive dominance by Luna and Aiden, and then Bolt's coming over with his tail wagging in a posture that's what we call a T2 tail posture, it's straight back. So like I said, the situation is such that Denali appears this week to be kind of on the bottom of the rank order, primarily because it was initiated by Aiden. Aiden is always the one that seems to put Denali in a subordinate posture, and therefore Bolts obviously gets an opportunity to gain some rank. But Denali can take care of himself, and like I say, sometimes when it's too much, his hackles will go up, he'll respond in a little bit more threat display, his tail gets a little bit more closer to being tucked in that fearful response, and then your best bet, just keep on the move. You can climb, you can run, you can chase, you can jump, and again, like I say, that is one of those situations that Denali can do. He's a tall wolf. He has the ability to escape and to get up into higher places that Luna can't reach, and there's a double rock system that oftentimes Denali will find. So like I said, these are getting more frequent, these kind of chases around the enclosure, and I think sometimes they just feel good because spring's here, and we those of us who live through winter, you can probably appreciate that. So like I said, when it gets too rambunctious, Aiden's going to put some limits on that kind of behavior, and he typically limits Denali, and not putting as many limits on Luna and Bolts. So that's kind of the pack's dynamics. So like I said, we are in the middle of a warming trend. I think after the last time when I said that we were around the corner, that spring was around the corner, and then we got 27 below zero Fahrenheit, we decided to stop talking about the weather. So at this point, like I say, just enjoy the footage. Luna always on the move, certainly not showing any signs of weakness. And we do have birthdays this month. Actually, Bolts is going to be turning 3 on March 17th, and Luna is going to be turning 3 on March 25th. So we'll have webinars for both of them. Actually, with the webinars this time, they'll be a little bit different, and that will start out with some video footage so we can share their memorable moments from the time that we got them until where they are today. And certainly Luna's most memorable moment for most of us is the fact that she is, for her body size, capable of possessing and guarding any food resource from any wolf. And so she has been known to be sleeping on deer. She will take them to bed with her, which is what she's doing here. She kicked Denali out of bed and brought the deer in. Part of that's because, again, the compacted snow is a little bit cold. on her, so we use a lot of cover hay for not only Luna's comfort, but all the wolves. It encourages them to stay in that warm, sunny area and makes them a little more comfortable in captivity. In the wild, they wouldn't have to worry about compacted snow. They wouldn't be necessarily staying in the same place for very long as they hunt and are on the move. But here in captivity, that's what the least we can do to make them comfortable. So like I said, Luna will take her deer to bed, and we will oftentimes see the wolves lying here in the front of the exhibit. This is Bolt, and Bolt is in a little bit of a curl rest. That means he's not as comfortable or a little bit colder, so they curl up and conserve heat. Denali's in a side rest. Notice he's on the snow with his head in the straw. And look who's sleeping with a deer in the background there, Luna. So her deer took over Denali's spot, and that's how Luna is. She is full. She's had a lot of that food, and actually if anybody attended the webinar on Saturday night, that's the same deer. So this was filmed on Monday, and that was what was left. Now, by Thursday, this is what's left. As a matter of fact, actually that's a beaver vertebrae. The deer has been pretty much gone. On Wednesday, I also fed a quarter of a beef that was donated, a hind quarter, and there's a little bit of that left, but because we did have 2 nights of below 20 degrees, or 20 degrees below zero, 24 below one night, 26 below, actually rumor has it 29 below on Thursday morning, and so we have been keeping up a little bit of extra food resources just to make sure that everybody's getting enough calories. So I did also a webinar on the Wednesday where I fed that steer hindquarters, and so very few people were on that, but we had a lot of activity, and we'll talk a little bit more about webinars in the future. But so like you see, you can see Bolts, and Bolts is very compatible with Denali. There's not a lot of tension between those two. It appears that Bolts is not really moving up in rank at all. As a matter of fact, he's fairly timid, and if there is any kind of dominance from Bolts, it's usually when Luna is interacting with Aiden, and Bolts comes in and takes a couple of what we consider to be testing kind of behaviors. But like I say, for the most part, Bolts is pretty timid. He's definitely got some kind of an issue with ravens. I don't know if ravens have dive bombed him, but he is not a big fan of ravens. He's not a big fan of wind, which none of the wolves seem to be favored of that. So like I said, everything's going well. Everybody's good. We're having really no real significant winter medical issues. We've had some great opportunities to watch some good social engagement. The Vermilion Community College wolf ethology class is on site starting after spring break. They're going to be monitoring the wolves and be able to give us a behavioral assessment of pack dynamics. So as I said, I always tell when things are going well. This is Aiden, our dominant pack member, and he's pretty relaxed. The sun is warm. It feels good to, especially for him. He's 6 going on 7. Denali and Aiden will be 7 years of age on April 27th. So it feels good. We've been watching Aiden actually rotate where he's sleeping based on where the sun is. So when the sun goes behind the building, he'll move around and he'll actually make sure that he stays in the sun throughout the entire day. So I'm sure he'll be enjoying an extra hour of daylight. So like I say, we spring forward on Sunday morning. That means 7 o'clock will now be 8 o'clock here in Central Time. And not everybody in the country or across the world honors daylight savings time, but we do here. So you'll see, like I say, a longer period of, not necessarily a longer period of daylight, but just basically the idea that the timing will now coincide with more light in the evening than in the morning. And obviously daylight is increasing as we are continuing our move towards the summer solstice, which is the longest daylight of the year. We increase in every day, and we're appreciating certainly the more opportunities, the more light. So Grizzer is next, and Grizzer here is just going to show off again his 3 areas. Lots of movement, lots of interaction. So for when we do wolf care with Grizzer, this is the front pack holding area, and the pack holding area is adjacent to the wolf yard. So this is where he gets to watch what goes on in the wolf yard. And as a matter of fact, we're about to announce a a building project that we're doing. We're doing a enclosure improvement or a building improvement that'll allow us to have a kennel inside the building that connects to the pack holding area to allow animals to come in and out of the wolf lab and be able to come into a protected kennel area versus and then go back out to this what we call this pack holding area. We're kind of designing that for the pups in 2016, but also as Grizzer ages, this will allow us an opportunity for Grizzer to come right into a portion of the lab that'll help us manage him as he matures to an older age. So he was there up on the den in the back habitat that was built for him in 2011, and then obviously he moved into this east side enclosure in 2014 after the loss of Shadow and Malik. And so Grizzer's now got 3 different areas. So one thing a lot of people say is, oh, he's 11, or he's going to be 11 on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, and I suppose as an 11-year-old, he's pretty docile. A wolf is a wolf is a wolf. If you come in with something new, they are opportunistic predators and they investigate you. And here's a wolf checking out a new pair of pants on a staff person. And as we shut off the camera and gave a little bit of a redirection to him to not grab at the staff person, that got Grizzer pretty excited. So then he went into the Grizzer 500 and just kind of raced around, jumped on top of the den, jumped off of the den, took a race down to the back side of the east side enclosure. Certainly reminding us that 11-year-old wolves, first of all, are not pets. They're not dogs. I mean, they are wolves, and wolves investigate. And when wolf care staff change up anything that they do or, make something different, they're going to investigate. And that investigation is typically with the mouth. And so for captive wolf management, we always talk about, safety and handling, always having 2 people together in handling, and Grizzer is no exception. Just because he's going to be 11 in May doesn't mean that he is, by any means, not a wolf. He is, and he is definitely an older wolf. Like I say, this little race around the enclosure gave him a little cardiovascular workout there, but, he's definitely always looking for opportunities to take advantage of things, and that's how wolves survive, They can see where there's a weakness, see where there's something different, something to investigate, and something to focus. And anyone who observes wolves for a period of time is probably very observant of that ears prick forward, alert, always into something. And, in the wild, that might mean a cache. And here's Grizzer finding a cache that he had buried. One of the reasons why Grizzer is so anxious when we have to move the exhibit pack into the pack holding area for any work, and Grizzer has to stay on the east side den. His biggest source of anxiety is who's going to get my caches. He, like I said, even though he's alone, he still has a lot of caching behavior and definitely is protective of his resources. So that's it for this week's YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.